Alright guys, I thought of creating a mini project for us so that we do not just keep learning without applying what we've learned. So I created this simple multiplication table creator. So we'll be using some of the concepts that we've learned during the course of the series. We'll be using functions, we'll be using loops, we'll be using variables and all that. So to create a multiplication table like this, this is an example of what we'll be creating in this video. We have a multiplication table creator. So the creator is going to give you prompts to pick a table. Possibly you want a multiplication table 2, table 3, table 4, table 6 or 7, whatever figure you want. So you'll be given a prompt to pick a table. For example, let's say I pick table 7 now, right? So the program is going to ask me, where do I want to terminate my table? Do I want to stop at maybe 12, 15, 20, 30? Let me pick 20 as a stopping point. So the program is going to create a multiplication table 7 because I picked 7, and it's going to stop at 20 because I picked 20 as the stopping point. So we have multiplication table 7. 7 times 1 is 7, times 2 14, times 3 21, times 4 28, times 5 35, and on like that up to the stopping point, which is 20 times 20 is equal to 140. Then at the end of the table, the program is going to ask you, do you want to terminate the calculator now, or do you still want to continue? If you pick yes, it's going to terminate the program. If you pick no, then it's going to start again from the beginning. Pick a table. Let me pick table 5 now. And then where do I want my table to stop? Let me stop at 12. Right, so I have table 5 times 1 is 5, times 3 is 15, times 5 25, times 8 40, times 12 is 60. I want to terminate the program now. Yes. Right, so if I click yes, that's going to stop the program from creating another multiplication table. Right, so that's what we'll be creating in this video. Now without further ado, let's get to work. Let me clear my terminal with the command clear. Right, so as you can see, the first thing we are going to be doing is to give the user prompt what table does he or she wants. So the first thing we are going to have is we are going to have an input. So we are going to give prompts to the user to pick a table. We are going to have the prompt pick a table. Alright, so you can say in figures. So the user is going to know that the value we are looking for should be in figure. I pick a table, and then I'm going to use the end keyword so that the user input is going to be in a new line. The end keyword is for moving to the next line, right? So since the user is going to be giving us a figure and the input function is going to return a string, so we can use the int function to convert the string to integer, right? So we assign that to user table. Let's assign that to the user table variable. We can easily make reference to that. So we have that, and then after that we are still going to give the user another input prompt. We ask for the user where does he or she wants the table to stop. So we can say, where do you want your table to end? Okay, that's a question. Also use the new line keyword, which is end. Then we escape that using the backslash. So we can assign this to, let's say, stop or stop point. You can say user stop point. Okay, but let's use stop points for that. Let's reduce this a bit so we have more real estate to work with. Okay, now we have our user table, we have our stop points. We can put a comment here. So user inputs. Alright, we can run this to see if our code is working properly just as we want it. Alright, so we have this prompt pick a table. Okay, we can pick table 7. Okay, where do you want your table to end? We can end at 50 since we cannot perform any operation now. So alright, so our code is working perfectly as we want it to work. Now we have our input from the user. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to define a function that is going to perform the multiplication operation. Okay, so we can come to the top of the inputs to define our function, so that we have separation of concerns. Define, which is the keyword to create a function. You can call this multiplication table. Multiplication. We have our parentheses and the colon. Okay, so we are going to be looking for two inputs in our function: the table as the table value, the multiplication table we want to create, and then the stop point. So we can call this stop. We have table and stop as the inputs we need for our function. All right, so inside of the function we can print, so to indicate whatever table the calculator is working on or the user has picked, we can have a statement here: multiplication table. All right, so whatever table the user picked, so we're going to have curly braces. To be able to concatenate these strings, we are going to use f string. Okay, so we have our curly braces to add a variable to the string. Okay, so we have print this, we have printed that. So after printing that, we're going to have a for loop that is going to iterate over the range of numbers from 1 to the endpoint to the stop point that the user has picked. So we are going to have, we can call this number, we can also call this factor, whatever name you like. So I'll be going with factor. Then we have the range function. So we'll be starting from 1. Table starting from 1, then it's going to be stopping at the stop point that the user has picked. But due to the fact that range does not include the highest points of your defined boundary, for us to include that, we are going to add 1 to the stop point that the user has picked. So we have our for loop. Okay, then inside of the loop, we're going to be printing the statement. So we use the f string table, the table variable, which is the table that the user has picked. So if it is, for example, if it is table 2, then you have 2 times 1. So this is going to be the value of the table the user has picked. We have table, and we have x to symbolize our times. Then, so we'll be having factor here. So for example, we are starting from 1 to 12. So factor is going to be 1 for the first step. In the second step, factor is going to be 2. The third step, factor is going to be 3. Okay, so we have that, and it's going to be equal to, we have our curly braces. Okay, then that is going to be table. This is where the actual multiplication takes place. We have table multiplied by the factor. Okay, now we've defined our function. We have our function there, and as you can see, the indentation there is, so with this indentation, you know that these are the codes that are inside of our function. So from this point up to this point, these codes are not inside of the function because they are not indented inside of the function. Okay, so to call our function, you know that we're going to use the name of the function, then you invoke it using parentheses, and then you are going to pass the argument. We have 2 parameters, table and stop. So we're going to pass the argument, and the argument will be passing now at user table and stop point. So we have user table, and then the second argument is stop point. So we are using positional arguments now. We are not using keyboard. We are just passing the argument in the same as the parameters. Okay, now let's run this and see where we are in our calculator creation. So pick a table. Let's pick table 4, right? So where do you want your table to end? The table can end at, let's say, at 10. Okay, so we have a multiplication table 4 because we picked 4. Then we have 4 times 1, 4 up to 4 times 7, which is equal to 40. To make this more appealing, we can have a statement over here. Before user input, we can have a statement that is welcoming the user and print. Okay, so we can say welcome to multiplication table creator. Multiplication table creator. Alright, so we have that statement. Okay, I think we are good to go now. Let's run that again and clear our console. I want to expand this, so we have more space at this edge. Okay, so if we run the program now, we run this. Welcome to multiplication table creator. Pick a table. Let's pick table. You can pick table 17. I think that's kind of odd. Then where do we want it to end? We can stop at, let's say, 50. That's going to fill up our screen. Okay, so we have multiplication table 17 times 1 is 17, times 2 34, times 5 85, times 10 170, times 21 357. You can see how it is to work with programming. Programming helps you to do complex tasks very easily and in a very short period of time. Okay, before we go, we need to give a prompt to the user. So after performing each operation, we're asking the user, does the user want to continue or the user want to terminate the program? So to do that, we'll be using the while loop. The while loop is going to help us to keep repeating the same step until the user gives the command that he or she do not want to continue the program. So we can have, before code say, we can have a while loop. So while, then we can create a condition. As long as the condition is true, the code is going to keep repeating. We can have a condition, let's say terminate. Before that, we can define our terminate variable because Python is going to tell us that terminate is not defined. We can assign false to terminate. So by default, terminate is false. That means the code is going to keep running until terminate becomes true. So we can say while terminate is false, and you know that this code are going to run as long as the condition is true. By default, the condition is false, which means the code is not going to run. So to turn it to true, we are going to use the not keyword, which is going to negate, which is going to invert our condition. So by default, terminate is false. Okay, false goes with the capital letter F. So by default, terminate is false. And since the while loop is going to run if the condition is true, so to invert the condition, we are going to use the not keyword to invert terminate. So while terminate is false, we are going to be running all this code. So we are going to put this inside of while loop. We are going to indent all of them inside the while loop. So to indent them, just select and then press your tab. Note that by default, your ID is going to, if you set it to 4, as you can see, I have 4 space by 1 tab. So you can use space, you can use tab. We've talked about indentation in one of our previous videos. Okay, so we have all this, but you should remember that while loop is kind of dangerous. You need to have an exit plan for your loop. If you don't have an exit plan, you are going to end up inside of an infinite loop, which is going to get your computer crashed. So you need to create a condition that is eventually going to turn this condition into false. Okay, so we're going to, after creating the multiplication table, we're going to ask from the user. So we give a prompt to the user. The prompt is going to go by, do you want to terminate the program now? I'm going to say yes or no. Okay, so we need the user input in a new line, and we do that using the new line keyword. I'm going to escape that using the backslash. Okay, so do you want to terminate the program now? Yes or no? Okay, and then we are going to assign the user input to the variable of our user terminate. Okay, so then we are going to create a condition after this input. So we have a conditional statement. If user terminate is equal to yes, if user terminate is equal to yes, we have a string of yes. So if that condition is true, then we are going to turn this terminate, which is our main driver of this while loop. We are going to say terminate is equal to true. So this is going to be our exit plan that is going to prevent us from ending inside an infinite loop. So if we run this again now, we're going to pick a small number so our console does not get filled up. Let me clear the console. Okay, so we run this again. Okay, I'm having an error here. Okay, so it's supposed to be a colon here. Okay, so simple box are going to give you nightmare if you know what you are doing. Okay, so we have welcome to notification table creator. Pick a table. I'll be picking table 6. Where do I want to stop? I want to stop at 15. Okay, so we have multiplication table 6 from 6 to 15. Times 1 is going to be 6, times 3, 18, times 4, 24, times 7, 42, times 12, 72, times 14, 84, times 15, 90. Okay, do you want to terminate the program now? If I say no, I'm going to, this while loop is going to take the program back to the beginning and graph. Welcome to multiplication table creator. Pick a table. Let me pick table 8 now. So where do I want to stop? I'll be stopping at, let's say, 16. Okay, so you have 8 times 1 to 8 times 16. The last value is 120. Do I want to terminate the program now? Yes. Okay, so we have that, and there is one more thing I want to show you here. So assuming, let's run the program again. Okay, so let me pick, I'll be picking table 2 now, and I'll be stopping at 10. Okay, so now the program is asking me, do I want to terminate? What's assuming I type my inputs in uppercase, or let's say the first letter is in uppercase. What do you think will happen? Do you think the program is going to terminate or it's going to continue? The program is actually going to continue because uppercase Y is different from lowercase y, which our program is expecting. So if I enter this now, then the program is going to continue. So to take care of situations like this where the user can either input in uppercase or lowercase, we are going to use the lower function. It's a method, it's an inbuilt method that is available to turn your letters to lowercase. So we attach that to the user terminate. So here we can say dot lower. So lower is going to turn this input into lowercase. So the user can either give the input in uppercase or in lowercase. So this lower function is going to turn this into lowercase. Okay, so if we run that again now, let's terminate this. Okay, this is going to return an error. Can clear that. Okay, so let's run this again now. Pick a table. Let's pick table 90. Okay, where do you want it to end? You can end at, let's say, 20. So we have multiplication table 90. You want to terminate the program now. Even if I type my answers in uppercase due to this function, then we are going to have it in lowercase, which is eventually going to terminate the program. Alright, so that's that about our mini project. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next lesson.